right, we're moving on to lesson 7-9. Yes, this chapter's long. We are moving into negative exponents. I think you guys did these in middle school pre-algebra, but if not, we got a good review going on. Can you use negative exponents? So a to the negative n is the same thing as 1 over a to the n, meaning if I have a negative in the exponent, I'm going to take it from the numerator to the denominator and take the negative away. So let's look over here. I know this is 11 to the second power, to the negative second. So to take away the negative, I'm going to do 11 squared in the denominator. So that's 1 over 11 squared. Well, your mean math teacher made you memorize 11 squared. You should have known it anyway. So we get 1 over 121. Moving on. Example 2 says 6 over 6 to the negative second power. So I know this guy has to come up. So I have 6 times 6 squared. Well, 6 to the first and 6 squared is 6 to the third power. And again, you have this memorized. So if you have it memorized, you can go ahead and tell me 216. Example 3. 5 to the negative fourth. This one we don't have memorized. I do know to get rid of the negative exponent, I'm going to take 1 over 5 to the fourth. And you could leave it like that, or maybe you know that 5 to the fourth is 25 times 25, which is 625. How did I know that? Ooh, I love a good trick. Let's talk good tricks. So anything that ends in a 5 squared, we did have 5 4 times. And this is why I'm saying 25 times 25, or 25 squared. So if I have something that ends in a 5 squared, I know that it will always end in a 25. We're going to take the number before it, take one more, and multiply. So 2 times 3 is 625. Super cool. What if I have 35 squared? I know anything that ends in a 5 squared ends in 25. Take one more than 3, and we get 1225. What about 95 squared? Anything that ends in a 5 squared, we get 25. Take one more than 9. 10 times 9 is 9,025. All right, enough of the trick, back to the lesson. Ooh, what happens here in example 4? I have 4x to the negative second to the third power. So we learned earlier that this 3 has to go to this 4 and to this 2. So we have 4 cubed and x to the negative 6, because when I have a power to a power, I multiply. Well, good thing I know 4 cubed. 4 cubed is 64. And I know since I have this negative exponent, I'm going to throw that in the denominator. So we get 64 over x to the 6th power. All right, the last thing we're going to go over, anything to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. The expression 0 to the 0 power has no meaning, but that's going to go even with the variables. We know that a to the 0 power is 1. I know x to the 0 power is 1. What about 5 to the 0 power? That's also 1. What about ABC? All of it to the 0 power. That will also be 1. So while we're here, let's go over our summary rules of exponents. Remember when I multiply the numbers, I add the exponents. So for example, 2 to the third times 2 to the fifth is 2 to the negative second. But I know now that that negative should never be shown. I should put it in the denominator. Those are products of powers. quotients of powers, if I have b to the m over b to the n, I subtract b to the m minus n. And we did learn that we can have 6 to the third and 6 to the seventh, and we're going to put it where the greater exponent is. Now, we don't have to know 1 over 1296, but that is the answer. All right, a power of a power, b to the m to the n, we multiply b to the mn, and we did one just like this. 2 to the third to the negative second is 2 to the negative 6, which is 1 over 2 to the 6th. All right, let's move on to power of a product. AB, all of it to the m. Remember, this m has to go to the a and to the b, and that's why we have a to the m times b to the m. Meaning, if I have 3x, all of that to the negative second power, remember this negative second has to go to the 3 and to the x, where we get 3 to the negative second times x to the negative second, which is the same thing as 1 over 9x to the second. All right, last thing that we're going to talk about, what about a power of a quotient? A over b to the m is the same thing as a to the m over b to the m. So if I had 3/5 to the negative second, 3 to the negative second over 5 to the negative second, well, those negatives, aren't they just going to flip-flop? So 5 squared over 3 squared is 25 over 9. All right, I have a bunch of practice problems here if you want to give them a shot. While we're here, I'm going to show you my famous question. So I'm just going to star it and go over my famous question. So I know that anything to the first power is 1. So on the bottom here, this literally says 1 plus 1. And I know that 4 over 2 is equal to 2. Great job, guys.